So we went in with a $10,000 budget and we walked out with a $50,000 check. We used to ask all the time. And I think that kind of question is really valuable for coaches too.
All right, guys, welcome back for another episode of The Real Coach Show. I am here today with Ben Larzabal, and I'm super pumped to have you, Ben, because we just met actually in John Meese's program,
Right.
Sold Out Coach Club, which, guys, you have probably already listened. It's the most popular episode so far, to the John Meese episode on this podcast. And I'm excited because Ben is actually working as a coach within that community. So he understands all this stuff at a high level. He's done a lot of cool stuff in his business journey. And Ben pitched me on a very cool podcast idea, which we're going to have for you today, which is 5 hard-won lessons from his own journey that will apply to coaches sort of along the gamut. There's sort of meta lessons, there's specific tactical lessons. And so with the sort of framework of being a coach himself and also having all this entrepreneurial experience, we're going to walk through 5 amazing things that you guys will hopefully be able to apply today, or at least catch yourselves if you're missing things. So I'm going to put you on the spot and say we're going to dive in to lesson number 1, which, if you want, I'll just remind you is show, don't tell. And I know I need this. I am way too wordy, as you can tell in this introduction. Please forgive me.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, just for the record, could have also been called something like 5 mistakes I made that you shouldn't or something like that. So these are all based in like things that I did that I'm like, I should have done this differently. But yeah, keep going. So when I started my first soiree, I'm going to use that word, into like owning a business when I was 25. And I tell people this because it's important. It really is because my wife like recommended it or pushed me into it. So we had just got married. She was finishing her master's, so we had no money, and she could work. I had been a part-time teacher, and I was like, I need a real job. Like we have to eat, you know. And we were living in a 600 square foot apartment, and it's like the bliss of the first 6 months of marriage. But I was like, I got to do something. So I was looking for jobs, and my wife was like, you should just like start a business or like start doing something. I was like, okay. I was like, the only thing that I can think of doing. I had 2 jobs in high school. I was a mechanic for a while, or apprentice mechanic, and I did photography and videography for summer camps for a couple of years. It was super random how I got into it, but I did it and I liked it. And I was like, I could probably do that. I could probably like do some video and photography stuff. Like people pay for that kind of thing, right? Like that. So anyway, so I sold some stuff, bought a camera, and then I'm like sitting there in my apartment, like with this camera, and I'm like, how do you get clients? Like, I don't know how this, like, I know how to do some stuff, but I don't know how to get clients. So, I think I just like started emailing a couple of people. And to this day, I honestly don't know where I got my first client. So I got a first client, somebody sent me an email. And again, I don't know how they knew me. Like, I really think it was like Providence because like they came out of nowhere, but basically they were like a group, a small publishing company. And they're like, hey, could you do product photography for these books? And I was like, yeah, I totally know how to do product photography. I've never done that in my life. I had absolutely never done. So it's like straight YouTube. Again, I'm like making a little psych, if you know what those are, right? Like with some can lights from Home Depot in our little apartment. I think we got paid $1,000 after I did all these like book photos and what, like I'm learning Photoshop for the first time. And we're like, we made $1,000. It was like, we can do it. So that's what started it all. Was $1,000 whatever. So soon after that, I met a guy. Actually, he was the guy who did our wedding video, and he was like, "Hey, you're doing some photography. You should come and work out of this co-working space," which is back when there was like 2 of them in Dallas, and that like wasn't really a thing. And this one was like full of like photographers and videographers. Some of them like very well known, like got invited behind the scenes to Apple stuff. And I mean, just like super, super cool people. And I'm like, I don't know about this. Like, I'm not that kind of guy. He was like, just come check it out. And it was like $400 a month, which if you're doing the math, that's half of that 1,000 right away. And he was like, yeah, you should join because it's really cool. I was like, ooh. So we talked about it, and my wife was like, let's just try it for like 2 months. And if it doesn't work out, like whatever. Anyway, so I joined, and within the first month, like we were rolling and making money. And it was like, oh, okay, here we're going. And the big like unlock for me was when I got there again, I like sat down, I have a PC now, but I had my like Apple MacBook because that's what was cool. And I sat down and then like, now what? Like I've spent $400 to sit at this cool table and drink really nice coffee with a bunch of people that make way more money than I've ever seen in my life. Now what do I do? And actually, I think it was the like what do they call them? Like community director or whatever that was like, hey, you should just like do some stuff. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's like, just make some stuff and show people. Like we have this Slack channel. You can, I was like, okay. So I actually made a little like super high intense, like basically like promo video, like trailer for making coffee. Like it was the process for like how, like, there was like this open coffee bar. It was like high end, whatever. And they were always having to retell people how to do it. And I was like, well, I'll make an instructional video, but I'll make it like basically it's like in a world where like that's what I did, and it was like super high intense whatever, and it was just for fun. Like I had nothing else to do because I wasn't getting paid, and I made it and I put it up on the Slack channel, and people were like, holy smokes, this is super cool, blah blah, like you should come. And so then I started getting hired for stuff, and it was just like that turned into one other thing, and that was where I was like, oh yeah, like I could talk about how I'm a professional photographer, videographer, like all I want, but if people can't see it, they have no idea, like they don't. So it's like that was where I really learned. It's like, oh, I just have to like I have to show people. I have to like do stuff for free until people get it, and then they're like, well, can I pay you? Right? Like you don't have any more time, and so they're like, well, can I pay you to do it? And that was my first sort of introduction into into like owning a business, into like figuring out how to make money outside of having a regular job. And I think the other bonus that I sort of takeaway that I have from that time is the value of having people around you that are several steps ahead of you. There was just a lot of folks again who are like very successful and doing a lot of stuff, and I got to ask them. I was like, "Hey, I'm in my first year. Like, what would you do differently? You know, I know that now you make $10,000 a wedding or whatever. What would you do?" And I got great. It was like hire a CPA, and I was like, "Really?" It was like, "Yes, because you will lose money every." It was like all these things that like it was like speed run on my starting a business because of these cheats that these guys were giving me. And they were just also very encouraging around like several times they would be like, hey, but I'm 7 years ahead. Don't beat yourself up, you know. Take what you can learn from me, but also don't think you have to like match where I'm at or whatever. So yeah, that was the first year and a half of like owning my own business, was that whole freelance video experience.
Man, let's apply that to coaches. And I think it seems clear to me what the steps might be here. But have you thought about applying this specifically to either a new coach or maybe, some of us, not naming names, definitely not me, choose different sort of avenues midway through the career and they're starting over in a new niche or whatever. What would be a way that people can actually sort of take this and apply it to their coaching business, would you think?
Yeah, I think it's a little different for different kinds of coaches. And I'm also, you said this, a coach, like I did the whole like ICF certified, like, I mean, I've gone to like the high kind of like intense route of coaching. We'll get to that later. But um, yeah, I think the same principle still applies around like people need to know that you can do it, and they need to know not that just that you can do it, but that you're somebody who delivers a ton of value doing it. So, for example, I actually did this last week. I had somebody that connected me, and they're like, "Hey, so and so needs some help, with their business," and they replied back with, "Hey, yeah, could we get together?" And I've learned for this is sort of the tweak on coaching. Um, because it doesn't have like a visible, you can't like show your product or service like as well out externally. um it's really easy to get sucked into some like lesser forms of showing, right? Like people don't basically, if you go to coffee with somebody and you're like, oh yeah, I'm a coach, or like you give them some advice, that's telling. And you're like, well, but I coach them. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't set up a coaching experience. Like, right? So actually showing is like, and this is what I did with this person. I replied back. I was like, I didn't say no, but I said, sounds great. Can you tell me a little bit more about yourself and about your situation? And they wrote back what their situation was with their business, and like how they've sort of hit this like stalled point in their growth, and they're doing really well, but they can't seem to get past a certain point. I was like, perfect. I am a good fit for that. And I said, here's what I love to do. I'd love to coach you. Uh, it's my gift to you. We're going to spend 2 hours together, and we're going to put together a plan like for what you're going to do. Then they were back and they're like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. I would love that. So we did. And we spent 2 hours together, and like we worked through this thing. And then I was like, if you would like, if you're interested in continuing this, like here's how this works or whatever. But that was me basically showing and not telling, right? I've made the mistake of doing the like coffee sort of it's like semi-coaching, but I'm also just kind of hanging out. And I've learned this whole, I wasn't the first person to say this, but it's in the book, The Profitable Coach, this idea of like, I don't need any more friends, right? But I will show you how I can coach if that's what you want. And for coaches, I think that it's like figuring out, it's like, um, what's the experience that you can give people where they have to like come face to face with your actual ability to create value. And again, it is a little trickier for coaches because it's like you'll probably be spending one-on-one time with them, but I do think it's that it still goes back to that idea of like you've got to show them, you've got to like get into like a very real situation where you're like, this is exactly what I do, and then it's an easy, do you want to do more of this?
Yes, that's an excellent, exactly where I was hoping you'd go, and even more. And I have struggled with that in the past, not maybe because of my um, just my short term mindset, thinking that if I don't go in for the kill, so to speak, on the sale, that I will lose this. And I have just been reminded over and over by people, especially with the book that you just recommended, and people who are following the way of this, which is the metric to track is how many hours are you in a coaching situation.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's different because yeah, this is the ultimate show don't tell. And I think especially with coaching, people don't know what that means necessarily. It's still probably something that most people haven't had a really good experience about. So to actually be able to take them into that like container, like you said, super powerful. And then it's very clear if they want more of that or not. Like, do you want me to help? Do you want my help continuing to solve the problems that you can't solve on your own? Like we just did it. So it's very easy, yes. Okay, well, thank you for that. I'm going to move on to numero dos. Number two, guys, is solve to sell. Sell
Yeah.
to sell. So this one you were talking about again, videography. A nonprofit came to you, wanted to pay 10 grand, and that sounds like a win, Ben.
Yeah.
So what's the story here that you
Well,
did not take that 10 as a win?
yeah, well, and it's funny, like, so this kind of piggybacks off of what we were just saying, right? And this story is like basically the moment that I learned that I was quote unquote good at sales, even though I've always said like I'm not good at sales. I don't like sales, blah blah. I'm like that classic, like I don't want to sell it myself, blah blah blah. And I had a business. So after that year and a half, I basically was like, this is cool. I am not a videographer. Like I was sitting around these people that were like nerding out about like every camera that came out and blah blah blah. And I realized very like through that, I was like, oh no. What I love is business. Like this is the puzzle that I want to spend my life like trying to figure out. And so I stopped freelancing and sort of traditionally and started a marketing agency with another guy that I met at the co-working space. And so then we were like working on these like bigger projects and like getting, sort of pitching and doing that classic thing. And this is sort of the quintessential example, though this happened a lot, is we got brought in by this large nonprofit who was like, hey, we're launching this campaign and we really need a video, can you come and just like talk to us about it and then put together a pitch? We're going to fly you out to Africa, blah, 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 blah. And so we went in and they told us like, hey, our budget, we used to ask all the time. It's like, what's your budget? And I think that's still, that kind of question is still really valuable for coaches too. It's like, it's not weird to basically ask. I was actually coaching somebody this morning on this. It's not weird to ask, what do you have to solve this problem? Right? Like, what's it worth to you? Now you can find different ways to ask that based on what you're doing, but that's not a weird question. Like they need to know that you're helping them get clear on it. If they're like, well, it's a $5 problem, you're like, then that sounds like it's not really a big problem. You should just put that away and come back to it in 6 months. Let me coach you on that. Just leave it alone. And you don't need me, right? Like whatever. Oh, it's like my top priority. I would put a big part of my like income towards this. Okay, well now we're like, that's a big deal. You need to find somebody. Like that could be me, like, maybe not, but like So anyway, that we digress. We get into this situation. They're like, hey, we have $10,000, and I just like, because I guess we're just the way that I am, I like start asking them questions like, well, what's this video going to do? What are you trying to accomplish? Like videos, you don't just do them for fun. Nobody's spending $10,000 just for fun. So it's like, well, we needed to do this. We needed to do this. So we're talking about outcomes, right? They had framed the conversation around like this product that they needed. And I like very quickly was like, no. Tell me about what you want to accomplish. And so we started getting and like working our way sort of upstream on the problem that they had. And they basically described a situation where they were competing, like people were confused about who they were and what they were doing. And they had a good donor base, but like even they were saying like, hey, like I try to tell other people about you, but they don't get it. their name, another organization had popped up that had a very similar name. And so anyway, there's all this stuff. And I was like, okay, so what you need is not a video. What you need is a differentiated market position. And they're like, yes. It's like, cool. That's a $50,000 problem. Do you want me to solve it for you? They're like, yes. So we went in with a $10,000 budget and we walked out with a $50,000 check. And which at the time, like this was early on, that was like this big thing, right? And that was again where I sort of learned that I was like, oh yeah, you have to one solve people's problems and be willing to really step in and solve those problems. And that if you're the one that solves their problem and understands their problem, then you're the one that they're going to go to. And also be willing to sort of like move upstream on their problems and be willing basically to work yourself out of a job, because I did have several situations where I would move upstream with people on a problem and then they would be like, oh, I guess like this isn't really what we need. We don't really need you. We need X, Y, and Z. I'd be like, great. But they then knew me as the guy that could do that kind of stuff, right? Like it sucked and like, oh, I didn't get the job or whatever. But like it still set me up as like, oh, if we ever need this problem or we need somebody to think about these problems better than we can, like we can go to bed. So I mean, you do work yourself out of a job sometimes, but it's powerful. And I think for coaching in the same way, it's like helping people one get clarity around what's really going on, solve their problem, which initially I find in coaching is generally like it's really focusing on what is the top problem, right? Like the number of times that you're first sitting down and just saying like, okay, but what is the one thing? Like if you can only solve one problem in the next 90 days, it's like, well, but I got all this stuff. And I do this too. Like we're all doing this, right? Like you and I were just talking before the call. It's like everybody needs a coach. And this is from somebody who's like, also this is a side thing, but like the coaching industry is bloated and blah, 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 blah. But I still believe in it. And I still think everybody needs it. If you don't have a coach, it's like, what are we doing? Like you don't even believe in what you're doing enough to have that for yourself. Anyway, that's my little jab. But I think that coming back to being willing to step in and really solving that first problem for people is often just like getting clarity around the problem we're solving, which again might mean as a coach, you work yourself out of a job because that's not the problem that you really solve, but that's okay because they're going to come back to it later. Right. And if not, then at least in their minds that you're somebody that does that, and that the long term, right, like your ability to be referred and all this stuff is like 10 times more powerful than if you had tried to kind of swing them into like, oh no, your top problem is the one I solve, right? So that was
That's really
that
powerful,
time.
dude. That I feel convicted by that because maybe because I didn't trust myself enough, or maybe don't in some ways. I definitely find myself trying to solve the problem that I see in front of me that like I can solve now. Like, let me solve that problem for you now.
Yeah,
Whereas it's like I try to live the rest of my life seeking ultimate truth and at whatever cost. And I notice as you say that in my business, I'm looking for the immediate solution so that I can get it now. And I don't want to be that guy. I would much rather be the one, like you just said, who is constantly pushing people ahead and forward and helping and serving so that along the way, it's like, man, the reputational advantage gets built up to the point that then you can sort of reap what you've been sowing. So this is, man, I as a coach and as now as an agency owner, I totally feel this. And that's one of my big notes already. So thank you for sharing that and
yeah,
convicting me on that. And I want to move on to the next one, which I think for a lot of people, myself included, can be challenging to figure out like what is the thing that you specifically are like uniquely qualified to do. And the point you were making was that you should focus on your gifts instead of your skills. And I know you're talking about your wife's business here. So I want to get into that. I want to help people understand that like me, I'm a jack of all trades in a sense. And so I've
right,
had a hard time finding out what is the thing
yeah,
that I can help with that maybe nobody else can, and then allow that to keep me in my lane, even if my lane is this big. Whereas with dad work, I wanted to help everyone.
yeah,
And I really hurt myself because of that. So anyway, let's get into gifts over skills.
yeah. So yeah, this is great, and I become very passionate about this. I've like built entire programs around uncovering your gifts without using like a personality profile, and like taught it at churches and big businesses and whatever because of this lesson that I like uncovered. And like, so we're doing the marketing agency thing. my wife finishes her schooling. She finishes, counselors, they have to do like 3,000 hours and whatever. And she did it super, super fast. She was super committed. And then she was like, well, I guess I should start my own practice. And I was like, cool, I love business. Let's start I want to figure this. So I helped her start her own practice. She was doing it. She had clients. And like within a couple of months, I mean, she was booked out. Like she's very good at what she does. I'm like her biggest fan. Like, and maybe biased, but I don't think so. I think she's awesome. And so she's doing it, and she's coming back home, and she's just like tired, And I was like, yeah, but like I get, there's that type of work, right? I'm real big on the idea that like work isn't your job. Work is like the expenditure of energy to make something better in the world, and you do that at your job. Hopefully, you do that at home with your kids. You do that mowing the yard. Like work is life in some ways. Like so this like work life balance. It's like no, they all kind of work together. That right, pun intended. Um, so anyway, so she's coming back and she's like much more drained, and I'm kind of paying attention. I'm like, yeah, I get that. This is new and it's hard or whatever, but like you love this, right? This is the work that you feel tired but like fulfilled, right? And she's like, definitely. It's like, okay, so help me understand the like drain, right? Because I personally at least have come to the belief that burnout is absolutely avoidable. And it has to do with that connect. Like, are you doing good work uh, that you were made to do, right? Like, have you found that fit? So anyway, without getting super into that, we're having those conversations, and it sort of comes out that basically she's like, I don't like asking my clients to pay their fee, like their and I don't like doing this. And it's all like insurance, like it's all the business stuff. And the rules about in Texas for counselors and businesses were a little bit different now. I could help her more now if she had her own practice. Short of it, she basically gets this email one day, and she gets from this larger firm in Dallas, and is like, "Hey, we're looking to expand. Would you be interested in coming in to talk to us about your deal?" And she's like, "I guess." She didn't like totally know what was going on, but basically in there, she was pitched this like, "Why don't you basically sell us your practice and come work for us?" And she came back and like we did the numbers, and she was like, "I just really love the idea of like just getting to counsel." And I was like, "Babe, go for it." Like the marriage, like they're giving you, it's a pretty good deal math wise. Like you're making a little bit less, but you won't have to do all this stuff. Like, I think it's great. You should go for it. And she did. And that was it. Like she came back excited every day, whatever. And it was this recognition, like, yes, when you first start, you really are sort of like just getting in front of people, trying to figure out how you can like produce value for them. But at some point you do have to figure out, and so maybe this is age, maybe it's not, maybe it's experience, I don't know. But the faster you figure out like what am I really made for, and what is like the other term besides gifting is like motivated abilities, right? There's a lot of things I could do. There's a lot of things I'm capable of. I have a skill in, but there's only a few things that I'm really like when I'm doing them, it gives me energy. I'm like excited about it. I come alive, right? Those are the things I need to be spending the most of my time doing, because I will outperform anybody else in that space, and vice versa. I could be like good at X, Y, or like videography. Like this is what I learned, right? Like I've spent thousands of hours editing videos. It is so draining. So did I have to learn it for what I was initially doing? Absolutely. Is somebody else, some 20-year-old now, this was many years ago, but like who's just starting, going to outperform me if they like just absolutely love it? Yeah, it will take them, it's be like 9 months, and they will outdo all of my years of experience because they're like, it's in their sweet spot. So it was that recognition of like, oh yeah, the faster you can find your sweet spot and really clarify that, the better. And that's what set me off on this whole trajectory of like, how do you do that in a really powerful way? My sort of bonus here is like, I love using personality profiles. I'm really big into like Enneagram. I've taught Myers-Briggs. They're all great and they all suck for different reasons. I'm going to get in trouble for saying these things, but because I'm certified in a lot of these things. But the problem with them is that they're made to make us. It's kind of like ChatGPT. Like it's made to make us feel good. Like it's why I like the Enneagram a little bit better, because at least there's like a little jab in there. But they still like requires so much self-awareness. And any given day, I'm not aware of what I'm actually great at and what I'm not, right? I lie to myself all the freaking time. The term that I use is an unreliable narrator. It's taken from film. And that guy's going off and he's saying like, nah, 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 nah. You know, like whatever. So the way that I do this, and anybody can do this, is like, how do you go back to stories from your actual life and basically say like, ooh, these were the moments where I was like working hard, but I felt like I accomplished something. And then how do you unpack those to find the through lines and be like, more of this, right? And so we can actually like pull sort of empirical evidence from our life. We don't need to like, it's not that complicated. Like it takes a little bit of work, but it's not like, oh, I got to go find the right personality test, or I got to go do all this work. I got to sit on a mountain for 6 hours in silence. Like, no, no, no. Sit down with a couple of other people, tell them these stories from your life, let them point out the things that you wouldn't notice, that because it's your genius and it's like your gifting that you don't even realize you're living in every day. Let them sort of bear witness to that and write them down, and then figure out how do you insert that gifting into all of your other areas of life, right? So now I'm sort of digressing, but that was a big season of more than just a lesson, but like a whole focus of my life, then became a thing of that uh, around doing that. And for coaches, again, I think it's the same way. It's like coaching. There's a lot of opinions about like how to do coaching, and again, as somebody who like went through a bunch of, I've spent, I want to say at least $25,000 on different coaching programs, like how to be a good coach. Got certified and ICF certified, the whole thing, yeah, right? Like, and they're useful. Like there's good tools out there. And I definitely think if you're a coach of any kind, you have to be constantly learning, because that's what you're in some ways offering the people that you're helping, is like that you're kind of doing the work ahead of them for them. So anyway, but all of that like can also make you think like, oh, I have to do it XYZ way. And it's like, no, 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 you have to figure out, how do I take the principles out of this thing, right? But do it my way, right? How do I take the idea of like, you know, solving to sell, right? That I gave you before. It's like, I do this through like ideation, because if I mean, you and I have sat down before, right? Like, give me 10 minutes, tell me what you're doing, and I will come up with 50 ideas of possible solutions for it. Like, that's just how my brain works. Like, I'm an inventor by build. Like, that's how God made me. So that's my gift. That's what I do, right? Uh, like somebody who recently gave me a lot of coaching, who I really respect, is Rocky Garza, and his gifting, like his superpower is like, I don't even know how to put it into words. It's like presence, like just this like ability to basically like by his sheer force of will to basically tell you and you make you believe like you can. Like, so he knows like what he needs to do as a coach is to get in the room with people, because it's like, I will be able to shake this like lack of confidence out of you, and you know, attaboy, and let's go, right? And these, I mean, he works with like CEOs of like giant companies, right? And he's attaboying, not in real life, but you know, like psychologically attaboying these guys. I'm going to get in trouble again, right? Like, and that's his, and he's learned that, and so that's what he leans in. So he's extremely successful because he's leaning into that superpower of his, right? Again, it's like, learn what you can, but the most important thing that you can learn is like yourself. And there's the dark side to that as well, which I've also focused on a lot, actually, with my wife, building some programs around that. Uh, but yeah, that's where you realize this is what I really have at the end of the day to offer somebody, is myself. So how do I get really aware of that so that I can do that well?
Man, that has been on my heart lately, because part of dad work for me was that it was just too caught up in too much. Like there wasn't that one thing that I went all in on, and then I had left that because I was looking at it from a macro point of view, like, oh, this business therefore is not for me. And I think that was the right decision. But coming into this business, I keep looking at the business as a macro whole to go, okay, do I like this? I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know that
Mm.
this is the business for me. And I was talking to a client of mine, actually. We were shooting a testimonial video. And afterwards, I was telling him about this kind of stuff. He's like, read Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. And so I did. And, the last 7 chapters are probably not applicable to me. But the first 3 or whatever it was, he essentially said, don't hire to grow your business, hire to be able to do more of the things that you love that generate revenue. And that was the tweak that I've needed over the last couple of months to be like, oh, I think almost anyone, I say that carefully, almost anyone can enjoy almost any business
Hmm.
if they're doing the things that, to your point, are giftings within that.
Yep.
So I could love having an agency as long as I'm not doing any of the work. And as long as I'm continuing to like push ahead, talk to people, do podcasts, dream and build a bunch of crazy stuff that doesn't work, as long as someone else is taking care of like all the details, I could love this. And the same way, I could love doing the dad work thing if I just like got to talk and I didn't do anything else. That would be great. And so that's been such an important thing for me, especially kind of thinking about the dad work thing, like how I could have done this as a coach.
Yeah.
Man, I anyway, so that's beautiful that the story you just told about your wife is so countercultural in a sense too, because like, no, she's supposed to be the one buying up businesses.
Right.
Like, what do you
Right.
mean she took a step back?
Yeah.
How dare she
Yeah.
in the cultural sort of entrepreneurial zeitgeist?
Right.
And man, that was like so. Oh, I just felt this sense of peace in my heart when you said that. Like, oh yeah, you don't like that, and you have a chance to do what you do love here for slightly less money, but like, sweet, then do that. And I wonder how many coaches are optimizing for how they feel in it. And I'm telling you guys, you have to optimize for how you're feeling in it day to day, because like me, you're likely to burn out if it's crushing.
Right.
Apparently, we're not meant to hold things indefinitely, crushing
Well,
us.
and it's the funny thing about, I love that you use the word optimize, because like even when we know, for those of us that do, that money is not the same thing as happiness, we can very easily get sucked into the belief that like money equals happiness, right? That it will, that's the fast track. And I'm totally, I get that money opens up a lot of opportunity, right? It gives us a lot of choice, and choice is a huge part of happiness. And you can accidentally, I've seen this throughout my life, and I'm very, very thankful for my wife that honestly, she has been the corrective force in this for 12 years now, where I can get off track and try to optimize for money. And she's like, no, 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 no. Okay, hey, go out and make a bunch of money. That's great. Um, I want you to optimize for happiness. Uh, and there's a point where optimizing for money means we lose happiness, right? I mean, she told me years ago, like at the height of like the most that I've made annually, we were talking about some other ideas, and she was like, honestly, at this point, if you could figure out how to make the same amount or even a little less for less hours, that's what I want. She's like, we're good. Stop. I was like, what are you serious? Alex Hormozy says not to stop, like, or what? I'm not picking on him. Like, I'll take lunch with Alex Hormozy any day. But like, right, like, I'm like in this world of blah 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 blah, And she's like, nah, babe, that's not what we optimize for happiness. Like, we optimize for like we have a real end game. And yes, this thing that we call money like is a part, like allows us choices that help us in that. But that's all it is a tool. Like, don't uh, don't miss out on that. So anyway,
Mm,
whatever that's worth.
that's good, man. That's good. Okay, speaking of money, you
Yes.
grew a
Yes.
business to
Yes.
$1.5 million ARR, Ben.
Yes. Yeah.
I loved your and answer voice, by the way. That was really
Thank
good.
you.
You just said it under your breath and it was amazing. Anyway, so the next point does relate to a business that you grew to $1.5 million ARR, which is awesome, which is like, dude, you made it. Everything's awesome. I
Yeah.
imagine you just kept doing that. Maybe you can tell us about that story
Yeah.
as we
Yeah.
go into it. But you said your business model is your product. And I'm trying to think about this because as a coach, I felt like I was the product. And so I'm
Uh-huh.
curious I'm curious. Tell me about what do you mean your business model is your product?
Yeah. So fast forward, had the agency. I ended up closing that, and working for a nonprofit as their marketing director for the first 3 years, when our daughter was born. And it was good. It also, I always had this like wonder of like, what if I did this for one of the like companies or organizations that, I had as a client, and sort of like go in-house. And I did, and I realized that was not for me. It drove me nuts. It like did not move fast enough. It didn't fit my sweet spot. So anyway, I was like, by year one, I was like, we gotta figure this out. So the next year I was like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? And ended up meeting somebody at the nonprofit that was really interested in leadership development. I had gone back to school and gotten a master's in leadership, and talked to her. She was an attorney. I was like, hey, let's blow this popsicle stand. Like, let's go start our own thing. And she's like, that sounds awesome. I know some people that are already in this space. I was like, cool. That's what I wanted to do, is like go find somebody again that knows what they're doing, like a couple of steps ahead. I've already learned, like, that's way faster. So anyway, we met with them, and they were basically like, hey, I've been doing this for a long time. I like what you guys are thinking. Uh, let's do it together. I was like, that's amazing. Like, that'd be so cool. So it was 0 to 100, which was awesome. So we started with 4 people. One retired pretty quickly, and so then the 3 of us plus like basically some admin and like consult or 1099 support. Very very lean. Grew the consulting practice. Yeah, I think we did 1 million our first year, and we grew it to 1.5 million. I think we got just shy of 2 by year 3, and then came down a little bit the 4th year. And what I sort of learned from that, because it started to fizzle out by the 4th year, and it was a little late. The writing on the wall was there, but we just didn't notice it. That this idea of like your business model, like, is your product. So where we got hung up, and I knew this before from all of my marketing days, and I just forgotten it or didn't pay attention, or maybe just got really excited about the money we were making. I don't know, but that it's not enough to have a valuable asset or like a thing, a problem that you can solve for people, or even a problem that you can solve for people that people really want solved. Like, you have to have a set of systems that like work together for you to be able to keep doing that as long as you want. And this is true for like a solopreneur starting out coach to like a major agency or company. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, the same principle applies everywhere. And the 4 questions that I sort of pulled together, and there are lots of different forms of this, but that I like are, again, like, who you're serving, um, who exactly is it that you are helping, how tight can you get on that, because it also gets tight on your promise and your like your solution. What value do you deliver? Which is really where most of us get stuck. They're like, oh, I know what value I can deliver. I don't know exactly who. I think everybody needs it. And you're like, that's not. But like, you do have to deliver value. There's this great example I used to teach in, because I did some uh, entrepreneurship training and whatever a while ago. That there was a company that came out. Man, if I could remember the name, doesn't matter. But basically, they were like a juicer company. So imagine like the Ninja, the next iteration of a Ninja, whatever. Those guys are awesome. Like, they're always coming up with something crazy. But they were like a all natural, blah 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 juicer, and raised just a ridiculous amount of money. Everybody was super excited. And then, as what happens, uh, like TikTok and your YouTube, I think TikTok was around then. YouTube basically, like, these videos started to pop up where people were basically taking the juice packets that they would sell. It was like Keurig, but for like all natural juice. And they were like just basically like taking the juice packet and just like squeezing it into a cup. And they're like, hey, look, this $400 machine, isn't that great? And they're like, it's a freaking kid's like juice box in a machine, $400 machine. And then, the company absolutely tanked, right? Because in the end, they didn't actually deliver any value, right? There was like, it was pretty, it was very interesting, but it didn't actually do anything to take one thing and turn it into another. Um, so you do have to have that. Like, that is a important piece of having a business. But it's like, who are you going to do that for? What value are actually delivering? How do you articulate that value to the market, right? Like, if they don't understand how why what you do is important. And the big one that I think I learned from this too is like, why now? Because there's scarcity and you only have so much time and money. So answering why now, I think, is extremely important. Um, and then lastly is like, and this is the one that we failed to really answer in our last business, is how will you acquire customers predictably? So it's having the full picture. And you may not have that last one immediately figured out. Again, you're going to do the like, let's just try stuff, let's get in the door. But that question of like, okay, so how do I get in front of this kind of person again and give them this value again, has to be on your mind, especially as a coach, where the value that you're delivering is generally happening in an enclosed environment, right? Like, you're not doing it publicly. That can't be like when I was doing video stuff, it was like, well, I just put it somewhere and people can see it. Like, right. Like I wrote a big commercial, like, and it went up on YouTube and I can be like, hey, everybody go look at this cool commercial that I made. Right. Like whatever. When you're doing coaching, that's harder. So thinking about like, all right, how am I going to get customers or clients predictably has to be a major question that you're answering. And that's where, again, I go back to the whole, like, it's a whole business model. If you really believe that you as a coach are transforming people's lives in some way or another, that you're delivering value, you're making their life easier, or you're helping them grow their company, you're helping them with their family, like whatever else, the best thing that you can do is to figure out how to like turn that into a repeatable system so you can do it for more people. And we kind of often shy away from the business part of things because it's like, well, that's not the like passion part. And you're like, I get it. But like, and I mean, this is true for like nonprofits and whatever too, right? Like, but it's that idea is like, no, the best thing that you can do is figure out how to do more of it, because if you really believe what you're saying and it's actually true, then more people need it, right? So figure out that factory, that system that will let you do that over and over and over again.
It was,
Actually, can I do this? Like, can we try something and then you can cut it if you don't like it?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So just for the sake of, I don't know how much time we have, but for the sake of trying this, like, let's do this with you real quick. So
Okay.
let's walk through these first questions. Okay. So Kurt, who do you serve?
High ticket coaches.
Okay, great. What value do you deliver? What's the transformation?
I give them so much time back and make them look better.
Okay,
I
cool.
mean, I don't know. You got to help me with it because this is the thing. This is why I joined Solo Coach Club, because
Yeah,
John Meese
yeah,
was like, borrow my conviction about what you do. And
yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
I think it's this. So we save them a lot of time because they don't have to do it. They don't have to pay someone on their staff who has a better job to do it. And then their podcast gets to go out after simply recording for 1 hour.
yeah,
So I'm trying to figure out a way to save that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good. That's good. So my sort of feedback or recommendation on that is that you actually flip it around, because this is something that I've learned a lot over the years. Is like one of the, you think about your competitors, right? You're like, when you go out, it's like, well, who else is delivering similar value or whatever? Well, one of the actual competitors that you have for the person that you're trying to serve is whatever they're doing now or just doing nothing, right? So the value that you really deliver, from what I heard, is uh, like being seen, right? It's greater, like public notoriety, right? And then the bonus is, without spending a bunch of time. But really, one of your competitors right now is not having a podcast, right? It's just me sitting on my butt and being like, meh, right? So less time really isn't a huge value add um, initially, because I could just not, and then I can save myself that time, right? The real value is more notoriety. And you're like, I would like that. I can't get that for myself without doing all these things. And you're like, I can show you how to do it. I can get you more notoriety without you spending 10,000 hours like a month on LinkedIn trying to like post a bunch of cool stuff, whatever, or whatever platform, right? Uh, so anyway, what is your response? Because we got the other
Great.
question.
No, I'm, yeah, this is good. I like the real time stuff like this. So I'm of two minds because on the one hand, I am just looking for people who already have a podcast who need my solution because they're in a transition.
Mm,
Either their current editor isn't working out, or they just fired them, or they've been
hmm
editing them themselves and they're like, dude, this is taking way too much time. Or they've got someone on staff who is now half their day is working on the podcast and they're like, oh, now you can't do the actual job I hired you for. Those are so many of the people that are attracted to what we do. And on the other side, it's like, okay, I can also launch, like we've launched podcasts before and help people do that. So it's like, if you are in that weird transition space and you have a podcast, we can help. And also, if you don't have a podcast, you should. And so I think I was probably initially going for the already have a podcast because it's a quote unquote easier sell, but harder to find people in that category. Whereas I think you hit on the people who don't even have one yet, which is probably a way bigger market.
yeah,
Um, so, yes, both of those. And I think those are different product offerings. So I don't know where that go. I don't know how that
yeah.
fits in.
Yeah. Okay. So I actually think this goes to question number 3, which is like, can you articulate that value like to your market? So actually, let me show you something. So Eugene Schwartz, very well known sort of framework, has this idea of like the 5 levels of awareness. We may have talked about this. You may know this already, but I really love it because it is one of those in marketing. There's all this These are just like tactics that come out of nowhere, but this is one that has like persisted through the ages. So he has these, what he calls levels of awareness. We're about to do this for you. Billy Broas has this book, Simple Marketing for Smart People, where he basically takes this and just calls these beliefs, which I think is a great word. But anyway, there's that. So he talks about these 5 levels. Whoops, there's a 4 there. I know what I'm talking about. And he says, first one is unaware. Then you have problem aware, solution, product, and most. Okay, so we're going to do this for you. And here's why I think this is important, because what you're basically saying is like, hey, I'm talking to different people at different stages of awareness. So you don't actually have to have, I think, different offers. You just have to have a very clear, and this goes to, again, like question number 3, and this applies to every coach, every business, everywhere, like how you articulate value to your market at different stages of awareness or different beliefs that they have about what they need or where they're at. So unaware for you, I'll just take a stab at this, is like, I don't need, a podcast. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Like completely unaware. Okay. So problem aware is like, I know that there's a problem. I recognize that I need something. So what would that be for you?
Is that what you were saying before with notoriety, perhaps?
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Okay.
I need,
And
I
that
need
could
a
even
way
be
to,
here. This could even be, I don't need more notoriety. I'm just going to go, but not. That doesn't make, like that might even be better. I like that.
yeah.
Okay. So I need,
Because some people will start a podcast because they just want to talk. They
yeah,
just want to talk and they just think it's the right thing to do. But
yeah,
oftentimes it's also like, well, I've got these people on Instagram or LinkedIn, but they're not coming into my coaching program
uh-huh,
because there's a missing link. But people don't know, like, what is that? And like you said, they're looking for those marketing tactics that pop up
yep,
rather than understanding that there's this middle of the funnel nurture part of their business that they're missing.
yep.
So yeah, I don't know how to get people from here to there.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so we have what do we say? Notoriety. Is that right? Okay, so I need notoriety. They know they have a problem. Now there's a bunch of possible solutions. So to become solution aware, right? What's that? They like that they know that there is a solution to this problem.
They need to I'm trying to break this down between product and solution. They either know that they need to be in more places
Mm-hmm.
or they know they need a podcast, but I feel like that's probably product. I don't know if I'm the product they're going to be aware of or if the
Yes.
podcast is a product they're going to be aware of.
So no, so podcast I think is so this most would be like, well, you can go ahead and say this right here. We can, so we know where we're going, is Kurt is the best option, right? This one might be like Kurt is an option. Okay, does that help? So then solution aware is which one? Is I need a podcast?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, I think so, and I'm going to explain where we're going here in a second. Need a podcast. Okay, so what you described again is like, hey, there's these 2 different groups of people. There's some people that like have a podcast, right? And for whatever transition or whatever going on, like you are a good option because you can do it better, right? And then there's other people that like don't have a podcast at all. They like either they want one or maybe they don't know they need one, right? They're further sort of like down the ladder, in this case, up the ladder of awareness, right? But they're all on the ladder. So this is why I like pointing this out, is like you don't actually need different offers. You just need different messages, or one message with like the different like stages that they're at. Where I think this gets really, really interesting. This is just me and my theory and my experience. Okay, is that most people, when we're talking about again this question of like how do you articulate the value, that value that you create to your market, most traditional sort of marketing efforts spend all of their time here, right? So you're like talking to people that already are like, oh, I need a podcast. And let me show you why, like, I need people to know that I can do it for them and that I'm the best option for them. And that's not bad because clearly it's like somewhat low hanging fruit. The problem is because that's where most people like spend their time, you're competing with everybody. And so it's very, very difficult to be differentiated. You know, right? This is where people get into stuck in their messages around like talking about features and blah, 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 blah. I think the real opportunity for differentiation is right here, is in these two. So basically, like, uh, what's happened in the world? Why do people like need notoriety now? Right? Why is that? Why is not uh, developing your notoriety, particularly as a coach, as a high level coach, um, just not an option? Right? Why is not doing it not going to work? And why, like, what happens? Give them an example, show them how there's winners and losers. So basically saying like the world has changed. Here's what's going on. Here's what's winners and losers. And then so you're bringing them into the problem. And then once they understand I need notoriety, this is also the place where you, because here there's also in the market there's a lot of other solutions, not just a podcast. It could be like, I don't know, LinkedIn. It could be whatever, right? Now you're competing with like a broad group of people that are saying like, yeah, definitely, but like go this way. And you're saying no, right? You could do X, Y, and Z, but here's why podcasting is actually like the best route, blah, 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 blah. So that by the time they get to talking about like, oh, you're right, I need a podcast, you've already built so much trust, like that everybody else that's competing in this space, like it doesn't matter. Like you win on the front end, but this is the line in the sand stuff that people don't tend to talk about. Like they don't create that as part of their messaging. And and really my guess is this is also where you get to insert yourself, right? Talking about like a need for a podcast, you're the best option. Like it's very hard for you to talk about like what you're passionate about and why you exist and why now. This is right. This space right here is all about like why now, which we talked about. Um, so this is where I think it's for you to basically you get to use your worldview to create a unique sort of point of view for others and draw a line in the sand. And that means there's going to be some people that say, I don't think podcasts are dead. It's not going to happen, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. They weren't going to be a hell yeah anyway. Like there's why waste your time spending talking to them? Better to find those people that are like, man, yeah, no, I get it. I get how these other things don't really work, and I do need notoriety. And I'm at the level where I'm making, four or 500,000 as a coach, and like if I want to go any further, like I need to be that much more valuable publicly. Blah 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 blah. Right? That is where I think you win from a positioning standpoint. These first two parts of the messaging are all about positioning. So, man, we just deep dived into this thing right here. But what sort of
Huge
reaction are
value.
you having to this as we're sort of live creating your answer to this question?
I love it, man. I think one of the things that just came to mind is I have been trying to figure out who is the person that I've been talking to in my content because I have a couple of clients who I would love to just serve more of them. They're just easygoing, great message. They are like very hands off. They trust us with whatever choices we're going to make. They have an established business, and I'm like, well, how we found them was not repeatable,
Mm-hmm.
but what if I talk to them about the fact that they need notoriety? What if I talk to them about the fact that, just posting on social media isn't going to cut it? It's, you could also say, I don't need more notoriety. You could also say, I don't need more trust. And,
Yeah.
we're in a so-called
Yep.
trust recession right now. Well,
That's a
you
great
do
one.
need that. And
100%.
podcast is the one that you get there. So in my head now, I'm going like, well, who are these guys? Because when I'm creating content, I'm not going to be like, hey, here's the best version of how to edit a podcast, which is what
Right.
we do most of the time. But to go talk about that in content is so useless. So I've been racking my brain trying to figure out what are my pillars. And so that just clarifies for me, I think, that I can talk to the people who are like those clients.
Mm-hmm.
So the $300,000 to $600,000 plus coaching business per year, hands off. They've been doing this for a while. They know what's going on, but they just need someone to do it for them because they know that it's part of the business. They're willing to spend the money. It's just how it works, but they don't want to do it. So that's the one where it's like, hey, if you don't want to do that And if you do want to grow your business and you do want to have more of an impact like you're already having, then you need to build trust, you need to build notoriety. But like, you're not going to post, like the guys that I work with have people posting for them, honestly.
Right.
And so you're not going to do that. And so how are you going to build the trust then?
Yep.
Well, you need a podcast. And if you already got to there, then it's like, oh, great. Well, Kurt gets me as a coach. And like you just said, that trust has been built up. And I can talk about that because that was my story. I was a coach. I had a podcast when I launched my group coaching program. That's when the podcast and the email and the group coaching program took off. So it's like, it's all of those things, not to mention, speaking of trust and notoriety, I'm on a sales pitch now.
This is
Speaking
great.
of trust and notoriety, when you invite people on the
Tell me, Kurt, I
podcast,
don't have a podcast yet. Let's go.
I know, Ben, like by the end of this call, we're going to be buying each other's services.
I'm not making $300,000 anymore.
But anyway, when you're inviting other people on the podcast, you're also then getting their trust, you're getting their notoriety, you're spreading the message even farther and wider, you're building that networking. So it feels like it's once again opened a little bit in me because I have been very like, I've been poking at different doors and wondering which one is actually going to open. And this feels at the very least like more permission to go after the people who I want to work with instead of trying to make up, well, who's at step 3 already?
Yep.
Like, okay, I don't want to talk to those people. Honestly, I don't. I just want to talk to the ideal client, which is like super agreeable, kind of conservative in his beliefs, just super chill, already has money. So that is my takeaway from this. And dude, super helpful. This is the greatest podcast like segue. By the way, I didn't know we are gonna do this live. I'll probably pull this into its own segment. It's so good. So thank you. And you've just shown instead of told.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. While you're making other points. So guys,
cool.
Real time action. So thanks, Ben.
Yeah, no problem. There was one other thought. Oh, just the other thing that I like about this is that very quickly for you, it becomes a way to figure out, okay, in answering that last question, how will you acquire customers predictably? This actually helps you with that. So this is again, my theory. I'm adding this in here. Right here is where you create your own clients in this space. So if people say, hey, I know I need more trust, and they're looking at your arguments about like why you need a podcast specifically to develop more trust, and you're competing now with all these other options that exist in the marketplace that are saying, no, create trust this way. There's most likely that there's a bunch of things that pop up in people's minds around, even if they believe you, around why they can't do that. Like that's not an option for them. And if you solve those problems, you basically now print your own customers. And this is true for coaching too. So it's like, like I could never have a podcast because like I don't have the gear and I'm not like a tech nerd. And you're like, cool, I have a downloadable one pager that shows you all the gear that you need for less than $400 or whatever, and how you can set it up in 90 seconds. Without being any sort of tech, like, or even better, like this is my personal like brand thing. So, please don't do it this way if that sounds cheesy. I like being a little bit irreverent. So I think it's fun. And you have to also know who you're talking to, right? Like I also have like attorneys as clients and I can't do this with them, but I like make a video with your grandmother, right? And it's like, hey, watch me teach my grandma how to set up a podcasting setup in 90 seconds. And it's like, what? And I'm not trying to be ageist here, but like, it's like the USB, you got to turn it over. It's like, it's a cosmic thing. It's always the wrong way, no matter which way you start. And it's just kind of fun. And it lowers that barrier of people's sense of like, I could never do that. And this is like the free stuff that you create here. Often also kind of like shuts down the competition because you're like, well, let me show you how to do it. Like where these are the people who would basically charge you. Like I've given that away for free because like I said, that's not as important as what I'm telling you. So there's a lot of opportunity again in this space. And then your Kurt is the best option. This is like your, landing or sales page. I think for coaches, this is if you have I recommend this, like having basically a document that explains what your coaching looks like, what it costs, how it works, and something that people can read. It looks really good. So this is like your sales doc. And so don't do this in coaching. Like that's not what it's for. Send it to them in a really great sales doc, right? Anyway, so that's my that's my 2 cents there.
Love it. Dude, thank you. Dude, that was awesome. Thanks for going super deep on that. And do you still have time to do your last
Yes, we
point
got to
here?
get number 5.
Okay, well let's get this done in the next 10 minutes then. Okay, guys, that I mean, you're probably blown away. You're probably just like writing your own version of that right now. You're probably just like going to change everything in your business because Ben solved most of your problems for you. Because it feels like that right now. I'm just on this little like high, like, oh, thanks, Ben. Okay, but let's talk about number 5, which
Yeah.
is what you're currently working on, and a lesson from that. And you said, look for felt problems. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering if this ties into what we were just talking about or how this works. But again, you just mentioned attorneys. I think that has something to do with it. So why don't you take us through it?
Yeah. So anyway, the long story of that agency is like it worked. It did really well. We made like really good money, and then it started to fizzle out. And so I left this year actually. And so what do you do when leave a business that's making a bunch of good money? You try to start another one. But that's not easier said than done. And one of the things that I think we didn't do in the leadership development space um, is really listen to. I don't know. I actually think we did do this, but we didn't do it fast enough. Let me say that. I'm going to give ourselves a little bit of a pat on the back or a pass, I guess. It's like we did do it, but we didn't maybe innovate fast enough. And that is that like if you have any sort of working business, if you're doing well, if you're even as a coach, you've got clients, you're doing stuff really well. You need to recognize that like at any given time, like there is competition behind you, right? Somebody else is solving another problem and coming after you. And it sounds intense and whatever, but like there's other options, especially in the world that we live in today. Like you could be coach, right? Like I live in Texas. I could hire a coach in Australia, right? Like Taki Moore, like he's in Australia, right? Or something. And like uh we just live in a world where it's like you can access anything, right? So I think the unique advantage there is to basically be your own worst competition. And that's by recognizing the felt needs, not just like what you see as problems in other people, but what they feel as problems. And then once you have them, once they already are clients, the way that you do that is by getting curious and recognizing the problems that you accidentally basically create as an option. So a simple way to do this, or that I've been doing this lately, is like looking at what are other people doing around spaces that I find really interesting. Um, and so one of those is like I've shifted back basically to more business coaching and consulting, less leadership development. Part of that is because my dad bought a trophy and engraving business. He's going to turn 70 this year. It's their like can't retire retirement thing plan, and I really want to help him. And in helping him out, it's just made me realize how much I love business and I could do what we've done here. So it's like, go back to your giftings, right? Like I get so much energy out of it. It's like, yeah, this is where I can win. Give me enough time with enough people and enough business problems. I'm freaking going to own this thing. Right. So I was like, I got to get back into that. Leadership is great, but it's a whole thing. So anyway, so in that space, I've realized like, okay, people are doing a bunch of things to grow their businesses that work, but also have new problems that they create or things that they don't. So it's not just features. It's not like, oh, I can do this better. It's like, no. Like, how do I solve the new problems that are created by this new solution? And that's innovation. That's how you're getting and the felt needs around that. So, for example, the one that I've discovered and then I'm doing some like early research on right now is with attorneys and psychologists. So you have these like licensed professionals, super smart. I love that crowd. I would love to get a PhD one day. I don't know if I'm that smart, but I like that kind of stuff a lot. I like nerds. I am one. And they have built up these firms and they've figured out sort of relationally how to get clients and referrals, but the system is a little broken once you want to get past like 10 million a year because you don't have any more time as an owner operator. And so I realized like, oh, there's a felt need here for a group of people that are already successful. Like, and so I've been just doing a bunch of like just being curious and sort of like spending time with them, just asking them like, hey, what are you doing? What doesn't work? What works really well? And then I know I can go back and create something that doesn't touch the stuff that's working really well, but does plug the stuff that isn't working. And if I can do it again 2 or 3 times better, like through that innovation, they will pay me really good money, right, to solve that problem. And then what I have to do on the flip side is once I get them, I have to keep asking myself the question, or really actually keep asking them, what are those new problems? So as a coach, this is recognizing that even the industry of coaching. Now I'm going to get on a soapbox. There should be like a disclaimer that shows up here. Definitely, the ICF should not listen to what I'm about to say. So that the coaching industry 10 years ago, like when like the Profitable Coach was written or whatever, was one thing, right? It was like very sexy to be a coach. Like there was this new thing, whatever. Now there's like a billion of us, right? So a lot of these techniques or these things that we've been taught about, like what coaching is and how we get clients and the opportunity, and you can work from Tahiti or whatever. Like it's not true, but it's not true the same way that it used to be. But the opportunity, so you could sit back and be like, ah, crap, nobody can be a coach anymore. The industry's broken, it's bloated. Some of those things are true. But like, why get into it? Well, actually, I think what is possible for a coach right now is to basically look around and be like, what's broken with coaching? What do people not like about it? Why do people not hire a coach? What do they think about when they think about coaches in my particular space? Like an easy one is life coaches, right? Like um, there's so much that some of the guys that you and I both know that like provide people like their clients as life coaches ultimately is what they are. They would say different things, but that's ultimately the category that they fall in. And they know that, and their clients know that. But the world around them, around life coaching, has become so like, put a candle on, and I don't know, whatever. I'm gonna try not to pick on people, but like, like I'm gonna stop before I do something that I'd regret. But um, so that world has changed. It's not as clear. So you have to then go around and be like, okay, what do people believe? We kind of go back to our belief. What has changed? And then how do I speak directly to that, right? And if I can do that, if I can plug those new problems that exist in this market or in this, right, in the current offers, I'm going to win, right? And again, as coaches, sometimes we're like, but like, I don't like the idea of winning and blah, blah. It's like, yeah. But if you genuinely have something good to give the world, like, then figure out a way to do more of it. Like, that's not bad, right? Even if at some point you're like, I'm making 150, that's good. I don't need to do more. I mean, I did that last year. Like, I was making 300 grand, like in this agency that we had 1.5 million, like that we were doing. And I was doing business coaching for free. Should I have been doing it for free? Now in retrospect, no, I should have been doing it for like $4 in a session. Like that's an aside. Don't ever do anything for free. But like, it's just not good for them more than anything is what I learned. Like, cause they were just less, I thought I was doing them a service. I ended up finding out the wrong way that I wasn't. That's an aside. That one's for free. But pun intended, like, that's okay. Like you can say at some point, like, hey, I'm making good money. Now I'm going to like give the rest of my time and effort and skill set and gifting to these other spaces that couldn't access what I have. Right. That's fine too. Like there's nothing wrong with making money or being successful. It's like, what do we do with that tool once we've achieved it? So anyway, now I'm ranting and I'll stop because we're going to get philosophical and I'll probably,
Then it'll be a 4-hour conversation.
we can't. Yeah. So
that
anyway.
would be crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Sweet. So it sounds like this is also one of those things, like some of the other points, where you're actually having to engage with a human being
Yeah.
and asking them what the problems are and
Oh, yeah.
asking how you might be able to solve them and actually thinking about people like that. And I think that is a very, very important thing. And part of the podcast, like part of the whole reason of this podcast is I would like to help fix the brokenness of coaching because it is so heavily dominated now by marketers who aren't coaches, but who say that they're coaches because they're really good at getting people in the door. And they're like, well, I better do something for them. So go through my templated program and I'll scream at you once in a while. And I'm a coach. And I definitely bought into that in some cases, and it was helpful until it wasn't. And it wasn't life-giving necessarily. So I really like the fact that so much of the thread of this is being curious and talking to real humans and having real conversations and really figuring out like who you are in this space. Because I think when people hear you can be a coach, it's just this broad blanket. Like you're saying, it's kind of this cool idea. You can just be anything, a life coach. Well, not anymore. Like honestly, not anymore. Who are you helping? Like go through those questions. Who do you serve? What value do you offer? Or what value do you deliver? And get very clear about that. So I think, yeah, for me, there's like a whole meta structure on top of this whole conversation that I hope will eventually be healing to coaching in general. Because I think people have this weird idea and they get burnt and they get overwhelmed like I did. and it's not healthy for anyone. So I hope and I think that this conversation has been helpful for that regard. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, Ben? I know we're like way into this, but final thoughts that you would like to leave people with coaching wise, and or let us know where to get more Ben.
Oh yeah. More Ben. At the moment, really the easiest place is on LinkedIn. That's the only social media that I have, and I'm trying to like get better at learning even how to use it. So there's that. There's just when you get on there and you're like, "What's he doing?" That's fine. I'm trying to figure it out. But yeah, that's please connect and say hi. That'd be awesome. And it's helpful to me to even just know like what is useful for people and what they're trying to figure out. Which I think goes to my last piece, which is like it's okay to like experiment. I was telling somebody this the other day in a coaching session that I was saying, like, I think if there was one uh, belief that I would love to instill in every human being, it's the belief that it's okay to try stuff, to just experiment, to just say like, I'm just gonna like try this for 3 months. Like I'm gonna run this experiment. I'm gonna see if it works. I'm gonna see if this matters. I'm gonna see if people like this. I'm gonna see. But we get like really. I do this all the time. Like I had to be coached out of it. Like I was just talking about with Rocky the other day. Like giving ourselves the permission to try something and see, and we're going to learn something from it, and it's going to get a little bit better, and it's probably not going to be just right, but we're going to be a couple of steps ahead of where we were before, versus like if we had focused so much on like finding the perfect fit immediately or doing it perfectly the right time that we never move on it at all. And I think that's true for like the business of coaching. That's true for you as an individual and like finding your gifting or whatever. It's like seeing things as an experiment or as a trial and getting excited about that, I think will get you moving faster than anybody else who's like, again, trying to like get it right on the first shot. That's it.
You said right before we hit record, you said traction is everything. And I
Yeah.
think what you just said is that. And
Yeah.
I wrote that down and I put arrows toward it because I am prone to writing notes and thinking about things. And oh, yeah, I would definitely, that's how that would work. But like you said, you got to work with people and get your boots on the ground
Yeah.
for this to work. So traction is everything. Okay, guys, it's time to wrap this up. Thank you, Ben, for being here. I
Yeah.
appreciate
This is
this
awesome.
very much. And guys, this has been another episode of the Real Coach Show by Proclaim Podcasting. We'll see you here next week.